a viewer asks, she is constantly triggered by her husband. And this constant triggering is obviously making them feel disconnected, and she would like to know how she can stop being triggered so often around his behavior. So I want to talk today about the goal we can have for triggering in our lives. And this is something that we all experience. We all get triggered. Especially those of us in relationships, people who are in relationships, and we're all in relationships to a degree. Intimate relationships particularly, but any relationship, parental relationships, friendships, things like this. That's where most of the really significant triggering comes in. So should our goal be to stop the triggering? In a sense, yes. But here is the thing. The triggering is actually necessary for us to go through, because it's actually trying to show us something within ourselves that is limiting us. Okay, and the trigger shows up externally to do that. So in my opinion, stopping the triggering is not the appropriate strategy. What the strategy should be is, how long do I stay in the trigger when it happens? So maybe the husband does something and it's a day and a half of, the initial trigger happens and the disconnection lasts for a day and a half. What if we have the goal of, no, okay, triggering is going to happen. It's trying to show me stuff within myself. It's trying to teach me something effectively. But what if the goal isn't to stop the triggering? Because I don't think anybody can stop being triggered. But I think what we can do is we can get skilled at reducing the amount of time we stay in the trigger and reducing the damage potentially it can do to us and our relationships, because it's the emotional toll it takes on us and our relationship. That's the price we pay for them, right? If they go on and on and on. So the goal should be here, okay, instead of a day and a half, can we bring that down significantly? What if it's like, okay, I'm triggered. Good. This happens. I'm human. We get triggered all the time. And we have the goal, how long am I going to stay in this? How quickly can I get out of this trigger is being the goal, right? Now, I want to tell you that this is the work I do, is how do we get out of the triggers? And it's a skill. It involves knowing how the mind operates, and it involves having an effective strategy. Because the strategies we were taught are have a fight, flight, run away, end the relationship, freeze, and then ruminate it for a day and a half, or fawn and apologize, right? And those are the 4 strategies we have. None of them work. And you might argue some of them are better than others. Maybe fawning, you might say, is better than fighting. That's debatable. But none of them work is the problem. None of them certainly resolve conflict in an effective way, where that the conflict doesn't keep coming back again and again and again. Before I continue, let me just tell you that I do have a workshop coming up on this on the 27th of February. And it's going to be much more detail about the process involved in how to get out of triggers quickly. Effectively, the way I approach it is there are 2 aspects of the mind. There's the persona and the shadow, and knowing how each of them operate and why am I so reactive to these external situations or triggers. And if you can know what is held within the persona shadow here, there's all sorts of things like covert contracts, ego presuppositions, unworthiness, shame. And then, of course, with the persona, we have anxiety, we have frustration, irritation, and anger. But what I'll be doing in that workshop is going into this in much more detail. So if you're interested in finding out the specific ways in more detail than I'm going to explain here, consider going to my website and signing up for that course on the 27th of this month of February. And for anyone watching this later than the 27th of February, I will post that workshop will be available on my site at a later date. However, so our goal here is to, how can I as quickly as possible get out of a trigger? Now what we do here is we're going to notice different types of feelings. Now, when we're triggered, it's really going to be usually anger or frustration, right? Now, we dress that up. We say, well, I'm a little upset. Or even we use words like triggered. Really, the honest answer is, if we're really honest with ourselves, I'm angry. I'm very angry. I am even enraged right now by what's happening in this situation with my partner maybe, or somebody else. Now, we will also have other things. What is leading us to that explosive sort of reactive anger? That's a good question, right? Where is it coming from? And very often people will look back on the trigger and say, I was super upset, but rationally speaking, I don't know why I was that upset about that thing that happened, right? And it can be from an outsider's perspective. Very, very trivial things it can look like that trigger us. But really where the explosive anger is coming from is a pressure within us. Okay, and that is actually coming from a lot of self-attack, a lot of needs to self-improve, a lot of needs to put pressure on yourself and other people because of a sense of unworthiness. So the shadow contains this unworthiness that we have, or a sense of helplessness or hopelessness that things won't change. The shadow also contains these covert contracts or ego presuppositions that we develop that we think are going to keep us safe. But the problem with them is that they put a huge amount of pressure on you or the other person to pull it off effectively. It's almost designed not to work. Then you go out and you start to be accommodating to people. You're trying to be nice with the persona. You're trying to be patient with the persona. And then the persona will feel it's going to start rationalizing. Right? It's like, well, he shouldn't have done that. She shouldn't have done this. And that's why I'm feeling angry. When really the source of all the anger is in the shadow. It's in these ego presuppositions or these covert contracts that we drew up a long time ago that have nothing to do with the current situation. So the emotions we're going to feel helplessness, we're going to feel pressure, we're going to feel anxiety, and we are going to feel anger. That's the trigger point when we get upset. So it's understanding all those four components really is the skill involved in how do I effectively get out of triggering as soon as possible. Remember, it is going to happen, right? Nobody can promise you that you're never going to get triggered by anything again, and it's okay. It's human to get triggered. It's a matter of, am I seeing the trigger as a problem that I then go into a shame spiral about, probably later, because with anger, when we react with anger, we always have a sort of a shame feeling later on. Am I going to do that, or am I going to learn how do I get out of these triggers effectively? That's called taking responsibility for our lives. And there are strategies, and you can get good at it. It's a skill. It's a skill like anything else, any other skill. So it's a process of inquiring into narratives. First of all, it's about bringing awareness to what is the emotion saying. What are the emotions? Well, there's anger, there's pressure, there's anxiety, there's unworthiness or helplessness. What are they trying to tell me? What are the thoughts that are attached to those feelings? Then it's inquiring, and that can be tricky because there's potentially 2, 3, 4 thoughts that are active at the same time when we're triggered. So it's about having a sort of systematic process or a tool at the ready for you when you need it. Okay, I'm triggered. Now it's time for me to go into processing on this. I'm going to get out of this as quickly as possible. Oh, that one took me half an hour to get past. That one took me 2 hours to get over. I would give yourself a big pat on the back for that if that's the case. Because these triggers that we get, it could be from a boss at work, it could be from your partner. I have seen many, many times when a person will get triggered and they will say, I can't work. I'm not capable of working right now. I can't function. And that goes on for 2 days. Right? So again, can we make the 2 days 2 hours? Can we make it 20 minutes? Effectively. Essentially at the end when we're getting skilled and better at this. So that's what I'm going to be doing on the 27th. But if you can't join me, I just want you to keep this in mind. This is the takeaway. You're not a little irritated and you're rationalizing when you're reacting externally to somebody with anger. There's this persona feels justified. It's rationalizing the emotion. It's saying this emotion is appropriate because this person did X, Y, and Z. But the person doing X, Y, and Z does not explain the rage that we feel. That is a much deeper thing. So I want you to Not beat yourself up about anger. One of the first things is to say, I am angry. I'm angry right now. And to stop using sort of softer language around it, like, well, I'm a little bit upset right now, or I'm a bit disappointed. The truth is, we're enraged very often. It is one of the healthiest things you can do to start learning how to deal with this anger, because if the anger isn't dealt with, and, well, we project it out, we fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawning is a big problem. Repressing anger is a huge problem, because often it goes to somatization. It goes into the body, into physical problems. So it's a very healthy thing to learn how to do this. But keep that in mind. Don't allow yourself to rationalize why that is appropriate for me to react with anger here to this person not bringing the trash out, or that she didn't respect my space or something, right? These things are not a match for the emotional reaction we're having. There's something deeper going on here that involves a little bit of inquiry into what is that really coming from, and understanding the mind and how it operates, and the different ways that the different aspects of the mind and the persona shadow that lead to the triggering is a game changer, because you know how it's happening. You can understand why it's happening, and you can let it go a lot quicker. So keep that in mind. I hope that was a useful video, and if you want to join me on the 27th for a deeper dive into this, absolutely do. You can find the link on my website. It's under the workshops tab on my site. Thanks for being with me, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.